I posed a question before we went to break. I said, because it seems to be the topic of the day. I don't know why people just keep talking about it, but people just want to know about Shedeur Sanders and why teams are afraid to draft Shedeur Sanders. It should be a no-brainer. But let's find out. Let's hear from Harry Douglas as he gives his opinion on why teams are afraid.
Okay.
Shedeur Sanders has what America fears the most. A strong black father who has money, who doesn't back down to anyone, and does what he wants to do, and doesn't also play about his kids. So my thing is, why not just grade him and talk about him like you do every other candidate? It's just insane to me that you can have a guy who a lot of people thought was going to be the number 1 overall pick, and then all of a sudden we're talking about the potential of him not even be drafted in the first round. Like, think about how crazy and insane that is.
Well,
I think that's kind of over the top comment. I think.
So let me ask you.
So because no, I think it's not because his dad is black and he makes a lot of money. I think because his dad is Dion.
Well,
prime time. And I think it's more so that than anything. And the vibrato that he's had in his life, the best defensive back I've ever seen. But the talk and the whole, all the luggage that come with that, I think that's part of it.
In
my opinion.
So when people say that, right, and they criticize Dion and things that he says and how he conducts himself, it speaks of when you ain't humble enough for me.
For me, you're not humble enough for me.
You don't humble. See, you may be great, you may be smart, you may be right, but you know what? You ain't got to tell me that. Who I dare you tell me what you gonna do and do what you say you're gonna do and then be right about what you said and tell me about it. So that bothers me. So now I don't like you. Because I don't know what Dion has done to make people feel like he's a bad guy. He's come through on everything he said he would do.
He's been right. That's what the problem is.
And then weird. I mean, it's odd to me.
Well, no, we live in a society now where everybody expects you to not live up to your word, to not deliver on anything that you promise. We live in a lack of accountability society, and Dion is being accountable for everything he said. Even in the leaving of Jackson State, hey, look, I got y'all better than what you're better off than when I first got here. Okay, so let's. We won.
But he did it with transparency.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like there's no behind the scenes, none of that. It was transparent.
They wanted it to be some behind the scenes.
Well, that were some behind the scenes, but he didn't even divulge any of that.
Yeah, but you got to be able to vilify. You see, my thing is this, right? And I learned this in the streets. It's the thickest thieves theory. See, I can trust you if I know you dirty like I'm dirty, right? So if I know you, how many times do we here come old goody two shoes. All right, we not talking now.
Yeah, we can't talk to him.
Look at old goody two shoes Earl over here. He always got it.
He always right.
Always. Yeah. We can't talk.
Yeah.
You can't have him in the room.
So for me, so let's take that aside. That's one reason. I don't know why, but that's one of the reasons. But then we get to Shedeur. Now all of a sudden we can have the GM saying it's the worst interview I had. And I'm thinking to myself, no one asked what made it so bad, Mr. GM. I know what made it so bad because some of the other publications, they kind of leak other stuff during his interviews. They would ask him things like who you look up to. And Shedeur would say, nobody.
No. They asked him what quarterback.
What quarterback you look up to?
Yeah.
He said, well, my father's the best NFL player I've ever seen, so that's who I look up to.
Yeah, but see, in the context of the question, he didn't answer the question.
Oh, okay.
He just provided an answer. I think.
Well, he did answer the question. He doesn't.
He did not answer the question.
No, that's the answer.
Maybe Dion felt like he could have played quarterback when he was.
But for him, that's the answer.
And I think that's part of the issue. Not saying that that's why they thought the interview was bad, but it's arrogance in terms of how he's. Yeah, because
what makes that arrogant?
Because he said, "What quarterback you look up to?"
I don't look up to any quarterbacks. I don't look up to nobody but my father.
They didn't ask what player you look up to. or what person. They said quarterback. They was trying to pair him with somebody that's played the quarterback position.
You should say what
in
game,
the NFL.
what quarterback game.
But he said quarterback.
Yeah, I understand that, but you should say
So
but that's not what they really meant.
No,
what they meant is, do you want to be more like Aaron Rodgers? You want to be more like Tom Brady? You want to be? He says. Now he could have said. He could have said
like Lamar Jackson. He could have said Michael Vick. He could have said a lot of guys are black quarterbacks. A bunch of them.
Warren Moon.
Warren Moon. That's what I was thinking about. Yeah, somebody like that. So, but no, I don't look up to nobody. I look up to my father. No, but that's not the question we asked you.
Oh, okay.
That's just my opinion.
I mean, but that's what he looks up to.
And I think the arrogance, very arrogant. Well, I ain't mad at that either. But I think that's what people, to your point, you ain't paid your dues yet. You need to be a little more humble. But your dad would never let you be that way. His dad was that way all his life, and I think that's what some of the people are hating a little bit. That's where it's coming from.
Because it's just straight hate. It's founded and based in absolute nothing. I mean, it is. It's just based in nothing.
Well, I mean,
I personally think Deion might have took his girl back in those old Atlanta days.
That's why GM was mad.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's just but routine. Every time you see, they've tried every way to dismantle the accomplishments that they've made. They've tried everything they could possibly do.
Well, technically, it's that accomplishment line is thin because they retired jerseys with a 12 and 11 record.
Ain't nobody talking about that. Ain't nobody talking about the retired jerseys.
Stuff like that. I mean, that's why.
Ain't nobody talking about the retired.
First of all, I love him prime, but I never forget.
Ain't nobody talking about the retired.
I never forget
Colorado.
in the Celebration Bowl when North Carolina Central beat them. He refused to even acknowledge the fact, even thank the doggone coach for to give him credit to the fact that North Carolina Central beat them. And I think that part of arrogance that's why people somewhat lean into not saying they want to be successful, but they just people like that's why they
no, they don't want to be. No, you're right. They don't want him to be successful
because he's arrogant. He's bashing it up.
He's not arrogant. He's not arrogant. When you can back it up, you're not arrogant.
Oh really?
Right.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
He's confident.
Exactly. What's the difference between confident and arrogant?
I'm confident in my skill set.
So you can say okay. I learned something today. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, people call me arrogant when I step on the stage all the time. They're like, you so arrogant. You ain't even nervous about getting outside. I was like, no, I just know that I've been working on some good jokes and they should work in this room.
Okay. So, which is amazing to me, when you walk around with confidence as an African-American man and stand on your own, people want to see you fail.
They do. They want you to be humbly, like how you said, you're not humble enough for me.
Right.
Would we be talking about him if his last name wasn't Sanders?
Talking about Shedeur?
Yeah. No, absolutely not.
And that's my point.
Well,
that's why it's really not about him. It's
honestly
more about his father, that somewhat the package is why people are somewhat
that's what you're drafting. You're drafting this legacy, this lineage.
I think the only reason we're really talking about him is because deep down, people really can't figure out, well, why can't he be like the number 1 overall pick?
Because he's not Cam Ward. That's why. I mean, you're gonna make him be Cam Ward?
Cam Ward is good, but
No, you guys say he's the best player in the draft. So that's fine. I go on that. We'll find out. Time will tell.
No, well,
does Cam Ward do this?
That's why I say he's ridiculous, people. Go see it.
I mean, but no one comes out and has all these glowing observations and reviews. See, this is what I think is all a farce, right? No one has stepped out and say Cam Ward is the absolute, hands down, best quarterback talent we've seen in a decade. Best quarterback talent of this. They talk. No one. I'm telling you, no one.
Maybe it's not then. Yeah.
I mean, but think about it. All these scouts got everything to say, but they don't never break down Cam Ward's game.
They just said a decade. He's the best of this group. I mean,
but they never talk about his actual rating and what he can do and what makes him an NFL rated quarterback to change the organization.
I think I've seen.
They never talk about it.